that picking up echo, or is that just background noise? So, bro just said my microphone was a bit low, so I'm going to turn up a little bit. Although it does seem we're getting more of the background noise out here. Still learning the ins and outs of this. If all works out okay. That's way high. We'll do the long-awaited Pocket Locker review. Okay. Let's see, how do I change my thing here? Screensaver. Okay. Oh. Okay, now the one difficult thing is going to be muting in between. And I blew up the comments a bit here because I had difficulty seeing them the last time. So let's see how this works this time. Just coming off a Ranting Monkey stream. Good evening, 11:30 p.m. April 4th, 2024. No, we don't want to do that. Wrong button. I was not seeing 100% of the comments last time in the live stream, but I was able to see them on playback. So, gotta figure out my view here. What's going on? I know I can see comments as they pop, I guess, for a number of seconds in the corner. It's not further back than that. There we go. Alright, I'll pick up right where I left off here on this Pocket Locker stream. What's up, Spooky? I see
A
you.
million and one reasons why we should be coddling these motherfucking cultists instead of whooping all the ass and at least having the audacity to look these motherfuckers in the face and tell them we tired of playing games with them and they fucking fairy tales when people's lives are on the goddamn line. We have got to stop fucking with these people, y'all.
Police brutality, rampant racism, and constant attempts to misconstrue what the movement was really about. The thing that always concretizes that fact for me is this comic, by the white moderate cartoonist Charles Brooks. King talking to a reporter with the city destroyed in the background and some white people lying on the ground, and King saying, "I plan to lead another non-violent march tomorrow." This is exactly what we see today. Liberals get uncomfortable and suddenly they're not for equal rights anymore. Or more accurately, they still say they are, but they just have some concerns about optics. That's not how you're supposed to protest.
And how much of this do we get in our community? People they claim to stand with marginalized groups. They're cool with black people. They just have particular issues with the only handful of black people that happen to participate in our spaces.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, like, if you're saying, like, that's the only people they have issues with, maybe. All right, let's see what's working on this side. Okay, so yeah, I don't see another way to there's a lot to this. Just want to make sure that I'm not overbearing here since we're listening. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, I want to make sure I'm cool with all my black friends. So, to be clear, oh no, it rebooted. Pocket Locker and I tend to actually align politically, which is why I thought this would be interesting to do. To see what's up with this video. I tend to personalize shit a lot, so you know, sometimes I feel like I'm getting called out. You know, gotta make sure I'm standing on the right side of history here, right? Okay. Let's continue. Let's
The
let it roll.
only handful of black people that happen to participate in our spaces. Oh, they love them some people of color. They just don't seem to notice when the people of color in their community disappear.
Which spaces are we talking about? I mean, I know, like, as far as the atheist community, like, black non-believers have their own, like, space. They want that space. Just like trans people, you know, people in the LGBTQ plus community, they have their own space. They want that space for themselves. So they make it an exclusive space. So I know that exists. So I don't see that black non-believers are being pushed out. That's what we're talking about. Like, as far as the left goes, now, you know, we're talking about liberals on the liberal left. Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about centrists, right? Are you talking about liberals or are you talking about centrists?
They love trans people. They just think the trans people that are out here giving voice to
What's up, Cher? See you out there? Good to see you.
trans issues from their lived experience are just a little bit too angry, a little bit too boisterous, you know.
And Mikey, welcome, buddy.
I support the cause. I just don't like you.
Test.
Fair enough. I support the cause. I just don't like you.
Why can't
Oh.
everyone just protest peacefully? Why? So you can ignore it? The entire point of protest is to be disruptive. But even if we put that aside, no one wants to have to protest. They want things to change with as little friction as possible. But that's just not how things work when the oppressor class likes their position and that position is dependent upon subjugating another class. It's like Castro said during the Cuban Revolution. The people did not choose the path of armed struggle. It was the path that was forced upon them.
And again, like, we have to just be so real about this, because again, I'm all about the resistance, and to the extent that the resistance can be nonviolent, I think we have an ethical obligation to see it through in such a fashion.
Let me know if you're hearing an echo or anything like that. It's hard for me to tell what my mic is picking up. I know from listening to the stream last night, it seemed like it caught some of the background noise out here. So whatever, as long as it's not overtaking the video. I want to make sure that we're hearing what Pocket Locker is saying too.
But why is that pressure not put on the other side? Why doesn't anybody ever call out the fact that it's force and violence that is used by our oppressors at every step of the way? Every step of the fucking way.
Can you support something that you don't like?
And we have
Right? I mean, I don't think you should support something if you disagree with it, but you should have like a valid reason to criticize it. Right? Like, if you don't have a valid reason to criticize it and it's just a difference of preference, then let people do whatever they're gonna do. Like, as long as it's not harming you.
have to have
Or
resistance.
other people.
I say the same thing. Here, I just don't understand how I finally found a community of atheists, a community of people who go.
See, and he steps over there. That's why I did the same thing. He's talking about liberals on the political left, but then he's talking about the atheist community. And see, I already know, because I've watched through quite a bit of this video already, so I already know. There's intersectionality there, but you're talking about two distinct like groups there that have an overlap. So
out of their way to make and support content that they say is all about opposing the dangers of religion, because religions is bad and we're the atheists, yet they don't want to do a goddamn thing about the actual dangers of religion that we're facing in the world.
It's not that they don't want to. It's not like atheists don't. I mean, obviously we have platforms like people are speaking about it. Like if they're trying to deconvert believers or they're trying to oppose, extremist like political ideology. Like we're trying, we're just constrained. Short of like something like I want to do, like abolishing the Constitution or something. All right, I'll conclude this here.
Literally not even to the point of having honest conversations with the Christians in their life. There's too much to fucking ask of them. It's too much to ask of them. To tell the motherfucking Christians in their life that they don't think this shit is true. So we can stop playing these fucking games. And we act as though we're going to Christian people out of Christianity. Like we're gonna take the people who ignore the fact that their holy book says to love your enemy, the last shall be first, the first shall.
All right, I saw some comments here. Tog, this says the true answer from a sexual point of view, booty is booty and smells don't change. Oh my goodness. Spooky, not a fan of Pocket Locker. I think Pocket Locker could work on delivery. I agree with a lot of the stuff they say, but I think the method of delivery is I think they probably do it on purpose. They probably do it to get attention, make things seem more sensational. I don't know. It's just me.
Up be last. The meek shall inherit the earth, all that good shit. It says that in their holy books. And they ignore that shit. When it's a command from fucking God.
I don't think that's a command from God, is it? Like that was just a
We
like
think
a
they're going to
decree.
give us our just due
it's not the
if
same
we just
thing.
ask kindly. Come on, y'all. I'm feeling some kind of way today.
Same with
Apparently.
Palestine. The number of tweets I've seen from liberals saying, I don't understand why they can't just peacefully
What's up,
protest
Paul?
is insane. And every single time, someone
Shout out
claps
to
back
Bree.
with a-
Bree made that thumbnail for me, y'all. Yeah, it's just a little something, change the switch it up. But Bree hit me with a little bit, blessed me with some AI art. Thank you, Bree. Love it.
different instance of Palestinians peacefully organizing and being killed all the same. By the time King penned his letter from Birmingham jail, which you heard some of at the beginning of this video, he had become disenchanted with white northern liberals, who had earlier in his career been his greatest source of white support. But when King started
What's up,
talking about
AR?
systemic issues that intersected with racism, such as economic inequality, these liberals started to squirm. The comfortable whites who looked down on the southern yokels for their ignorance and racism were now in the hot seat themselves.
Yeah, and this is the problem too. Like, I don't want to jump too far into it, but
Spooky says, Pocket Locker was very rude to Richard Madsen. I don't know if I caught that part of the engagement. I mean, I know I saw several people involved in a few streams. Like I was surprised by the traction it got. It's been a while
there's
ago
a
now.
lot of people who
But
are reckoning.
as I found out, the other day, Bundy hasn't gotten over it either because they were talking about it in their stream just a couple days ago. I took a clip of that too.
With the
They're
past,
still
and
on
I
it.
appreciate that. Part of what I can't stand about liberalism is it comes from such a
Okay, so there we go. So he's just talking about like the atheist community and now conflating it with liberalism and like white allies during civil rights right? So there's like a whole lot packed in here, just like lumping it all together. Like it's not, it hasn't been, how many years has it been? Were you even alive? I wasn't alive. I want to know if you were alive, Jay.
Centrality on like the
I don't think
white
so.
and the
You don't look old
privileged
enough.
perspective in life, and it really reinforces this idea that education is the key. Just educate yourself, and then
And see, I tend to agree with that. Like, education is the key. You can be educated out of white supremacy. You can be educated out of religion. That I don't think that's a farce. Like I don't
become
think
aware,
that's a mission.
and then and that's how we solve the world's problems. And again, I am not saying that education is not an essential part of the process. It's real different. It's real difficult to solve problems.
I think it's like a big part of the process. I think it's probably like key. It's crucial.
Ignorant motherfuckers. I don't know anybody that's work with an ignorant motherfucker. I got an ignorant motherfucker in your family. I had an ignorant motherfucker in your group assignment in class or some shit like that. But working with some ignorant motherfuckers is very difficult. Makes it very difficult to solve problems, do things effectively, get good grades, come up with good advertisements, any of that shit. It's always an impedance to production.
Tog says you could be educated, better religious, better relationships. Up for debate.
But we have to understand that this mentality that people have of like, oh, I've become aware of something, now I have this information, that you've materially changed conditions for people, right? And so when people become aware of structural racism, white supremacy, white power, the issues with the political system, the justice system, whatever it is, that's all well and good. We're happy that you're seeing things more clearly now. But you seeing things more clearly has done jack shit to materially change the conditions that people live with.
See, and there it is. Like, it doesn't. One changed heart, one changed mind. Is not progress. Like in this worldview, it's like if changing your mind doesn't change the whole system. If you can't re-educate your whole, like racial demographic or whatever, like right now, like it means nothing. Like progress, so now you're blaming the people who actually get you, or at least, like try to stand by what you're saying, right? Try to understand you. And so attack that person for the other person whose mind you couldn't change. Is they're like, okay, so I don't get that.
What it really does is you're supposed to be seeing it clearly now, and now you understand the need for action. Now you understand the need for change. Now you understand the need for revolution. Now you understand the system is not built to work for marginalized people. And then when we come to do those things, there's never any follow through. Nothing we ever propose, no changes we actually want to make ever get the support of these people. So what good is all that education for us? What has all that education?
So the people you're talking about, obviously, they can't make the changes. They can't implement those changes with a limited amount of power. Raccoon Gate. It was and still is. I persist to this day. That's what I was talking about. I'll see if I can show the clip later.
Done? What has all that awareness done? What has all that white guilt done?
White guilt doesn't do shit. Guilt doesn't help anybody. That's like well established. That's like that's a toxic byproduct of the
You may
movements.
not like whatever decision. You may not like the fact that there's affirmative action and shit like that, but you got to understand we have affirmative action because we've always had affirmative action. The same way you think it ain't really fair that we say we need to hire some diverse people, so now we have to look around and we have to actively identify diversity in the candidate pool and deliberately make efforts to hire people that are diverse. Yeah, you don't like that? Well, we need to do that because we've always hired people because they're white.
Just need to pause there for a second and take a breath. All right.
Male and straight and Christian, and promoted them based on those things.
So it's acting like none of this has ever taken place. Like equality for women, like affirmative action didn't happen. Never. Like people are, yeah, sure, people are not. Like in hindsight, it looks like it backfired, right? It does look like, in a way, affirmative action is something that backfired. But you're acting like it never happened, almost. Like the effects of that aren't even felt. We all know it doesn't work, but the answers do not lie extreme left or far right. No. I mean, I think some revolutionary action is necessary, but I don't see. I think the problem actually is like some of these moderate or centrist kind of like ways of like towing the line, like affirmative action specifically is like one of those things that's designed. It's supposed to level the playing field. But in fact, it like affirms the fact that marginalized people can't actually gain like political or social status or a status in the job market without somebody like or some entity like reinforcing their position. Like they couldn't do it on their own. That's the meta message that's hidden in there.
Or because they had a legacy or whatever the fuck it is. And so you may not have played a role in creating this system. You may be just as much a victim of the system as the rest of us.
I mean, anybody you're talking to now, like on your YouTube platform, literally had no role in creating the system. They could not have, right? Those people are dead. You're not, yeah.
But if you're benefiting from the system, you have to understand that puts a certain...
Talk says whites get hired because of fraternities, not schools. One's either... But occultic fraternities? There might be a typo in there. I'm trying to... Oh, not school. No, you mean like not college fraternities. Okay, I see what you mean. I don't know if I believe I have the Illuminati. They've been trying to recruit me on Instagram for a while now. So let's see how deep that rabbit hole goes.
Spotlight on you. That means you are much closer to the levers of power and the ability to be an agent of change than marginalized people are, and you have a responsibility to do something about it, to make the change that brings about a more equitable system.
What ability do I have? I'm not in politics. I have no influence, like other than this YouTube channel. What am I gonna do about it? Woke white dude. What would you expect me personally to implement the change? What did I do?
Sometimes I want to tell people, listen, white guilt is not the aim. The aim of teaching people history ain't to make you feel bad.
I don't feel guilty, by the way. I don't.
Bad about it. But actually, hang on a second. Maybe you need to feel a little bit of the guilt, a little bit of the shame. Because the shit is shameful. That uncomfort you feel about learning lessons, compare the uncomfort of learned lesson to the uncomfort of lived experience. And it's something that's it's just so hard to make people aware of. Like I struggle, like my mother's a great example. Somebody who really worked uber hard to be successful in life, just epitomizes the great American corporate worker, and put herself through school while raising a family and all that, and then climbed up the corporate ladder to the executive suite of some of the largest and most powerful corporations in the world. But just like when you see black celebrities, especially black women, talking about how they still are not getting theirs, they're still not being treated equitably, they still don't have the resources and the income and the access of their white colleagues. I heard that my mom's whole life, my mom's whole career, about how she wasn't making as much as.
But you can hear that from poor white people and poor Mexican people. There are impoverished people everywhere. So if you're talking about poverty, or are you saying that, wait, what are you trying to say here?
Her peers who were not black.
Because they seem to be making it a white on black thing here, and I don't see it. You're just
women. How often she wasn't
It's
even
women.
making as much in some cases.
Women, yeah. I mean, I'm making a lot less than a lot of women and people of color. I don't know. Still,
Of people who were in positions lower than hers, and
Yeah.
never understanding that. And now,
isn't that like capitalism though? That's capitalism, isn't it?
now, even though she certainly had an amazing career and certainly made a good amount of income for herself, is watching it all vanish, because her parents, who also worked hard and had great pensions and amazing careers and worked multiple jobs, worked themselves into the ground, it's like they can't afford all their senior and end of life expenses, and as their health is deteriorating, it's like the way the system is currently set up. A lot of y'all probably don't even know about this shit, but like to get
Well, this is why I, as a true liberal, I am for euthanizing the elderly. I mean, I think after a certain point, if they can't care for themselves, we can't care for them. I mean, controversial opinion, but maybe we should look into that. I mean, we can't provide for people living longer lives. We want the life expectancy to increase, but the quality of life it plummets. Why would you do that?
I don't know, Medicaid benefits or whatever the fuck it is when you're a senior, so that shit could help pay for your expenses, your personal care, right? If you've got to go into a facility or a home, all that type of stuff, you have.
Sure says, I think all women of any color are not treated equally. Yeah, I agree. There's still a lot of misogyny out there. So I think it's an unfair comparison for people to try to say something like that.
To spend all of your assets, you have to liquidate it. Like they it's called spend down.
Like he thinks he's gonna play both cards. He's gonna play and because I'm not just gonna use my own personal plight, my anecdotal experience. But I'm gonna use my mom's plight. And then harken it back to let's just keep going that direction, and that's where it's like, okay, at some point you're blaming me for what my granddad did to your granddad or something like that, and it makes no sense whatsoever, right? Like, and you don't even know if it's true. Like those two individuals who probably never even interacted,
but they literally
no basis in reality.
You go broke before you can tap into the federal government resources that you've worked for and paid into your whole life. And so, and then there's like waiting periods and shit. So then, you know, my mom's probably gonna have to like spend all the money she saved up
But that's like all old people. That's not like old women of color. That's all old people struggling with that.
for her retirement to pay for their care out of pocket for the couple years it might be until that shit even kicks in. And then that depletes her ability or whatever she was gonna try to do for me, leave me, which is cool because I've literally never counted on inheriting a dollar from my parents. It's just never been my plan. I've never
Good.
seen my parents as well off enough to really leave me.
Me
much of
either.
anything. I'm just happy they can take care of
See?
themselves.
We can relate. I agree with everything he just said. I don't expect any of those things either. Like, we're tight here.
But again, that's the fuckedness we're in.
Who?
That's the fuckness we're in.
Who? Who are we? Are we talking
People
about
who do it
impoverished
right,
people again?
The people who quote unquote succeed in the system, the people who the system was good to them. Nah, really in the end, they just end up slightly less fucked than the rest of us. But it's so hard to get people to see the need for revolution because one, they're just way too.
And I agree. See, I agree here. It is, we need revolutionary action. I think extremism is in some cases the answer. Now, it might not be the type of popular extremism that you see in like the SJW movements and stuff like that, but some type of legitimate social political revolution is in order. I mean, and it's going to happen whether we like it or not. So we could try to guide it using our intellect, or we can just sit by and deny that it's going to happen, but it's inevitable, in my opinion.
Busy. Two, they're just way too distracted. Three, there's way too many nefarious influences peddling bullshit, so people don't even know what the fuck is going on. And then the system keeps us just comfortable enough.
Let's check out the comments. I saw a comment here from Sure says, taking care of our elderly is not just political, it is cultural. Other countries. Yeah, sure. I mean, they might be taken care of better in other countries. I'm just saying we're trying to keep people alive as long as possible, but we don't care if they have dementia, if we have to keeping people on life support for like years, it's like sometimes it's more likely than not they're not coming back. There's no hope for like the improvement of the quality of their life. And I don't see why you would. I mean, essentially, you're keeping somebody alive as a vegetable, or they're suffering, they're in pain. Like best case scenario, they're a vegetable, and you're hoping they come back from a vegetative state. And worst case scenario, they're just suffering for months or years and just dragging that out. And it's like, why? Why would you do that?
Working just hard enough that people don't want to fight the power because they'll lose all their personal power in the process. That's why it really is going to take some kind of revolutionary collective action.
They benefited from a two-tiered society in which liberal elites were at the top. And so the complaint about optics was born. Look, Dr. King, we support your ideals, but the way you're protesting just isn't okay. This is the way liberals operate. They support emancipation movements in theory, but as soon as it crosses into the realm of the material, they become no different than conservatives. If violent protest is illegal, and nonviolent protest gets your liberal supposed supporters to condemn your movement, what recourse do you have to effect change? There's a reason imperial core countries are actively trying to criminalize various forms of protest. They have a vested interest in things remaining the same. As Kwame Ture said in his 1969 book, The Pitfalls of Liberalism, what a liberal really wants is to bring about change which will not in any way endanger his position. That is, of course, impossible when we're talking about fixing the systemic problems of racism, imperialism, and economic inequality. According to a 1966 Harris poll, King's favorable rating among white Americans was just 27%. Compare that to 95% today. That's how liberal.
So, I mean, I guess the logic behind this is like, oh, if we open the door, hypothetically, and we're talking like historically now, to like you know, let's say that you know we have equal opportunities for all people to move up the company ladder, then I, Mr. you know whatever, like you know field supervisor or whatever my position is, my job might be challenged by a black man or somebody of another color, right? Like I might my position in society in my career might be directly jeopardized by being in competition with a person from another ethnic group, right? Which is like just loco, right? And so Pocket Locker now viewing this guy streaming this, you know, which is you know talking like retrospectively, is essentially saying nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, and I think that's what this commentator is saying too, basically. Which I find it so ridiculous when people take that tack. I just can't stand behind it. Like I've seen growth in my time on the planet, so you know I think something's happening. I agree, it's painstakingly slow, but it's happening.
Operate. They oppose any attempts at emancipation while they're happening, then pretend they were always on the side of the righteous when they have the benefit of history books telling them who the good guys were.
Yeah, and this is what the problem is too, and this is kind of what we were touching on earlier on Hot Program, talking about the Catholic Church and you know the progress they're making on LGBTQ issues. It really it's clear that they're just resisting progress every step on the way until they're finally forced to change, and then they act like,
well, with the Catholic Church, the thing is like I think the church officially is willing to change its position like on the drop of a hat, as long as they don't feel they're gonna lose congregants, right? They need people to keep coming in, like that's their worry. So they need to gradually change the mind of the flock, right? The church is on board. They're a political establishment, you know. So I think they'll do whatever as long as they're not going to lose people.
They were the moral leaders who spearheaded change. They've always done this shit. It's always been bullshit.
No.
And the crazy thing is that liberals
I disagree.
do the same thing that we get so frustrated with conservatives for doing. Liberals end up basically being the same exact way.
In what way? Describe that to me. How are liberal? So you're saying liberal Catholics are like, that's just flabbergasting.
There's a great tweet that really sums up this liberal tendency. A liberal is someone who opposes every war except the current war and supports all civil rights movements except the one going on right now. Now,
where does this guy get that from? That's bullshit. Like liberals, we're the ones who oppose the Vietnam War. Progressives, more accurately, but liberal and progressive is kind of, it's almost used interchangeably, and so a lot of the ideology there overlaps. It's not exactly the same thing, but when you're talking about the same group of people, in this case, you're talking about the political left in the U.S. as it, you know, more or less exists today, the same people.
While MLK was outspoken in his disappointment with white liberals, Malcolm X went a critical step further and correctly labeled them an enemy of genuine progress and liberation. The conservatives are wolves. You know what they're up to. They're evil and they're honest. Not because they care about being honest, but because they're not afraid to wield power when they have it. The liberal...
No, I mean, I think like we can see this in the MAGA nation and like Donald Trump's power. It's not about like the fact that they're honest. When they're being honest, people don't even believe they're being honest. Like the whole telling it like it is thing. They get off on the fact that they're saying things that are non-politically correct, that are, you know, like, because their whole thing is, oh, we want this maximal amount of freedom, right? And we want this maximal amount of freedom for us. and they don't apply it onto other people. Like, it only applies to their specific in-group. So they can sit there and personalize it. Well, if I'm as maximally free as I can be to just say whatever I want, say I can just, go drop the N-bomb. I want to carry my gun into a Starbucks. I just want to be able to do whatever I want, but not afford other people the same rights. And that's what I think it is. So they come out and they mock, right? They will mock the other people for asking for very basic courtesies, like gender pronouns, like gender neutral bathrooms, and mock them for this, right? While simultaneously saying that they have the right to walk into a Starbucks with an AK-47 shouting the N-word at the top of their lungs, like it should be no big thing, right?
Is a fox. Less outwardly threatening, even seemingly approachable, but still a predator. A conservative will usually be open about their racism and how they need to keep the dirty foreigners out. Whereas a liberal will say things like, I see you, I hear you, hate has no place here.
And again, you're really talking about centrism. You're not talking about real liberalism. You're not talking about progressivism. You're talking about center left that's just trying to push through another election, that deal with these real right-wing nut jobs who are legitimately insane, right?
And then they'll run campaign ads about how conservatives are failing to secure the southern border. Biden hasn't stopped building Trump's wall. That should tell you everything you need to know about the liberal approach to immigration.
And again, like, not only is he not stop building the wall, literally just recently literally negotiated a package basically giving the fucking conservatives everything they wanted on fucking immigration issues, just cowering to them. Literally, they're not the reason we're making progress. They're the reason we go backwards. The funny thing is, the savior of the day was the fact...
I would call it holding the line. Just holding the line, it's just a position that we cannot move forward from. And it's been that way since, like, the hippie movement. It's been the same shit. We just got weed legalized. Like, just now, like, recently, in very recent history. It's been a long, hard fight.
That the Republicans are just so fucking anti-democratic that they vote down their own ideas. The Republicans literally helped craft this bill, but then they had to vote it down because if it were to go through, then the Democrats would get credit for their terrible, awful fucking border ideas. And they can't have the Democrats getting credit for doing shit, so they strike it down. And that's exactly where society is caught between. I'm putting this in very American terms, but I'm sure there's a similar situation wherever you're at. You're stuck between, on one side, the outwardly evil motherfuckers who just straight hate everybody and are open about their desire to, like, ruin the fucking world. And then on the other side, you have the people...
I don't know, see me, I trust somebody who hates everyone indiscriminately as opposed to somebody who is a bigot. Like, and you know, I come from that, like, background of cynicism. So myself, I have a fair amount of cynicism in me for anybody who's trying to, if I think you're trying to coerce me in some direction for your own, whatever, like, nefarious plot, right? So I agree with that. Like, I think more cynicism should be applied in this, like, broader sense, right? But when we're talking about charity, it's like, what are we going to be charitable about? And that's why I think, like, universal healthcare is a good place to start. I mean, go to UBI. That's why I say healthcare, housing, and food. If you take care of those three things, essentially, you don't really need an income to speak of to live, right? Because your basic necessities are met.
Who will do anything to fucking compromise with those people. and then they refuse to actually work with them, so they reject all their fucking ideas anyway. It's a fucking clown show. If you want more details, hit up Innuendo Studios and check out the alt-right playbook. But this is just, it's straight out of the alt-right playbook. And look, Joe Biden literally will tell you, he will repeatedly say, like, out of his way, like, he go out of his way, like, you have people who write speeches for you, and then you read them speeches ahead of time, and you decide on if every single
All politicians do that. All politicians do that.
fucking word up in that motherfucker is what's best for business or not. And what does this fool tell us almost every speech he gets? I'm a capitalist. I'm not anti-corporation.
And there we go. Right. Therein lies the problem. Now you're hitting it, right? Like before, with whatever you were saying about, you know, like white people not being woke enough or something, didn't, like, where were you going with that? That's what I didn't understand. Like,
I'm
and you're gonna go back into
pro-corporation
it.
because
You're gonna
I'm a
go
capitalist.
back into it because, like, Biden speaks for, like, most white liberals, apparently, because he's the only fucking candidate we can get pushed through who's not fucking Trump.
And I'm a Zionist. Without Israel, the Jews won't be safe anywhere in the world. Did the leader of the so-called liberal progressive side just say that they're a capitalist and a fucking Zionist?
Not my president. Not my dude.
In English word? No, motherfuckers, that's supposed to be the insults we hurl at you, and then you deny those insults because you're trying to be cloak and dagger, and you know that those are bad words.
And no, I did not vote for Biden. I voted another way, and you know how that turns out for us.
This is the motherfucker who shows up to the playground and makes fun of themselves so that you don't have shit to make fun of them for. They show up to school like, ha ha, I smell funny, I'm a loser, I'm weird, and I don't have any fucking friends. You're like, well, what the fuck did we say to the motherfucker now? Like, literally, I'm a capitalist, Zionist, Catholic who just loves Jesus.
Pretend you're deeply concerned, and then do the same thing the conservatives are doing. Or take the genocide in Gaza. We've seen a handful of the more liberal Democrats speak out against what Israel is doing, which is no small feat for a politician in the United States. But then when push comes to shove, they do the evil thing anyway. As I'm writing this script, every single Senate Democrat just voted to continue funding the genocide in Gaza. Every single one. It's like the meme.
I just have to point out, I find it ironic how he's like criticizing, so Pocket Locker's criticizing the presidential, the president for reciting a script, and then this dude's like, as I'm writing my script,
the people on the receiving
hashtag unscripted videos
end of U.S. militarism don't care whether the people who sent the bombs are
I
deeply
wonder-
concerned about it.
I wonder if Pocket Locker had a script.
They're still sending the bombs. Socialists like me tend to joke about Democrats just being Republicans with a rainbow flag painted on their bombers, but it's absolutely true. The liberals' only objection to imperialism and global domination is on aesthetic grounds. They may say they're cool with gay people, but they're still going to turn the rest of the world to glass if it means maintaining our hegemony. A good example of this meaningless liberal pandering is when Pharrell recently sent Trump a cease and desist to stop Trump from using his songs at rallies. And then he turned around and performed at a fundraising gala for the IDF. The people who've killed a
And look, let's don't even get me started on fucking celebrities. Like, these celebrities are just, they're useless, they're the worst, they're dumb.
So he's pro-Israel and anti-Trump, and you're like, I mean, I don't know if I know. Just let it go.
Okay, and let's just keep it real, y'all. At the end of the day, this shit is about class warfare. And while a lot of them have come from humble beginnings, and some of them remain radical and on side and you know, are really down for the cause, you got to check their G. You can't assume anybody is with you because they make nice sounding songs. At the end of the day, these are rich people.
Okay. I mean, I think, to be fair, like a lot of celebrities now, if they're involved on the political spectrum, they're gonna make their ideologies pretty well publicized and publicly available, and so there's no reason to think like, okay, yeah, and you know, they might make a song you like and you disagree with them on a certain issue or whatever. It's like, should I boycott an artist because I disagree with their politics? I don't know. How deep does that run?
With celebrity, meaning not only do they have more economic power
Howdy, Housey.
than whole swaths of communities, but then they have name. Their name often brings even more power, leverage, and resources than the money they have, right?
Social clout. Imagine that. It's an amazing phenomenon, isn't it?
That's why we say they're rich and famous. Because there's a whole lot of rich people, but their influence in their shit is only equal to the value of their dollar, right? Y'all see this with Trump, right? It's questions about, is Trump really a billionaire? Isn't he failed the house? Yeah, but the greatest asset of Trump is the name. And you see what he's done off the name. And the quality associated with the name has always been fucking dog shit. I just trying to make the point that we've got to understand, when it comes down to real brass tacks, it's class warfare. And most of these celebrities are rich people. I'm really happy when the ones that are famous turn out to be based as shit, but they're billionaires, a lot of them. How based are they really?
11,000 children in the past few months, who have targeted doctors saving injured people, journalists trying to show the world what's happening, the people who blindfolded a man, told him to run, and then sniped him in the back of the head. Okay, celebrities being useless is one thing, but when you have a liberal world leader, that's when things get really dangerous. Take Trudeau, for example. In response to one of the many ongoing protests for Palestine in Canada, on February 13th, he posted the following on Twitter. The demonstration at Mount Sinai Hospital yesterday was reprehensible. Hospitals are places for treatment and care, not protest and intimidation.
Take it to the head, take it to the head.
I strongly condemn this display of anti-Semitism. In Toronto and across Canada, we stand with Jewish communities against this hate. This is insane. If you've been online at all in the last 5 months, you'll know where I'm going with this. Justin Trudeau, liberal darling, has supported to the hilt the Israeli apartheid regime, which has bombed every single hospital in Gaza out of operation. Not only that, these monsters also dressed as doctors and nurses and infiltrated a hospital to shoot and terrorize the patients and heroic staff inside.
Oh, I'm not gonna like take a stance on this. I'll just say that's pretty messed up, you know. That's bad. It's just bad.
To the liberal, walking outside a hospital and demanding justice is a bridge too far. But butchering an entire population because it serves the interest of capital is perfectly acceptable. The justification for statements like Trudeau's has always
check this out.
This is insane.
All these people are war criminals. So let's just keep it real. If you're gonna call one,
exactly, they're all fucking war criminals. So why are liberals the worst?
Terrorists, all these motherfuckers are terrorists. You're gonna be worried about war crimes on one side, all these motherfuckers are war criminals. But if you're gonna say when one side does it, they're fucking terrorists because they went outside the boundaries of war and da 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 da. Oh, but this other side, when they do it, it's cool because they're state endorsed. Oh wait, am I ignoring the fact that the other side state endorsed as well? Yeah, I think you are. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. These guys are soldiers. These guys are terrorists. It's bullshit. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
To the liberal, walking outside a hospital and demanding justice is a bridge too far. But butchering an entire population because it serves the interest of capital is perfectly acceptable. The justification for statements like Trudeau's has always been opposing anti-Semitism. That obviously doesn't work anymore. It's an absurd claim to make that criticizing a genocidal apartheid regime is anti-Semitic. And it's become even more clearly absurd now that we've seen hundreds of thousands of Jewish people around the world stand up against Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign and say, you...
And this is true, but I would recommend, like, if anybody's confused on the issue, check out the Atheist Republic's video on this. It'll help clear up any confusion you may have.
You do not represent us. All you have to do is look at footage from within Israel itself. Jews are brutalized by the fascist police for daring to speak out against the regime. The anti-Semitism charge obviously doesn't work anymore, so the liberals have fallen back on what they do best, weaponizing vague feelings. The main objection to rallies for Palestine now is that it makes people feel uncomfortable or unsafe on college campuses in the West. Here's an example that's been making the rounds online.
There you go.
We want him dead. Please end it, please.
Aside from the fact that those are the most obvious fake tears you've ever seen, I want you to think about the absurdity of this display. Claiming to feel unsafe in your insular little university versus this.
مين بدك مين بدك؟
امي مع اخويا.
طيب انت ايش
اخويا ابو نسر كمان
That's what unsafe looks like. You feel uncomfortable? Think about how uncomfortable it is to have no food or clean water, no shelter, no hygiene products, your family killed, the places you've been told will be safe purposefully targeted with bombing runs. Liberals have no right to cry crocodile tears and pretend to feel unsafe. Of course, they'll still do it, and sometimes it will work. There are very few weapons as dangerous as a white woman's tears, as minorities have learned the hard way throughout
The
history.
hard way.
Enough pretend fear and they get what they want. In this case, the criminalizing of solidarity with the people currently being exterminated. I made a tweet the other day that said, "One thing that's been bothering me recently is that I have no power to make liberals care. I can say, I will never again speak to someone who still supports Israel, but what good is that? The hate and powerlessness I feel is something I haven't experienced before." I had one commenter respond with something I think is important to share. This is how colonized people have felt forever. Liberals act like they care, but they don't. They really, really don't. And their fake performative caring actually makes it way worse. At least right-wingers are honest.
Yeah, and this is just
Yeah, it's just like how, you know, when, what was that? Before they actually emancipated the slaves, there was some, like, cockamamie plan to like, ship them all back to Africa or something. That was a legitimate, like, talking point, right? So, yeah, I mean, I agree. Concessions have been made, right? But now we're here, right? So...
this is just the perspective of the marginalized. It's the one that I get so confused at how people don't see this. This is how colonized people have felt forever. Liberals act like they care, but they don't. They really, really don't. And their fake performative caring actually makes it way worse. At least the right wingers are honest. I mean, this is
Yeah, fake performative caring, like not trying to like get progress. It's like, and it feels like, why even fight it? I mean, if it's, you know, I mean, I'm gonna get, you know, probably more appreciation if I just, you know, go back to the other side and be like, well, fuck them, you know, whatever. It's not my in-group. What incentive do I have to fight for your rights? It's not threatening me, right? I don't know. I just couldn't be like, actual, idealism or, altruism or something. Like,
This
no.
is the insanity.
I'd rather
of it.
just like bash my head against a fucking wall. When according to you, I have all this fucking privilege, right? I have all this fucking privilege, and I just don't care enough.
To me, it always has been. If we cared enough, if we prioritize these things, we'd have the change we seek. But people don't care enough. I mean, I literally felt the same way with COVID. On one side, we had people who initially refused to even acknowledge that it was real, then refused to stay home, refused to social distance, refused to wear masks, then refused to wear the vaccine or take the vaccine. Then we had the other side going, well, I think the mask really did hurt the children's ability to learn how to socialize in school. Well, I do think, as a matter of bodily autonomy, maybe
You have a problem with people like actually contemplating the long-term ramifications of our actions in the present? Is that what you're saying? That's what it sounds like you're saying.
maybe we were off a little bit about the vaccine. Well, there were a lot of mistakes made early on in the pandemic, and we see that shutdowns don't work. Like, anybody here want to fight a fucking virus? Anybody want to deal with the realities of fighting an actual virus?
So welcome back, Todd. Keep them thinking. Oh, keep trying.
It doesn't give a shit about your fucked up ass word games. No. All right, I'm gonna just head out and stay home in a cocoon for 4 fucking years. It's all good.
I mean, you sound like a hyper. I don't want to call you a paranoid person, but is that what happened? Like, who needed to stay in a cocoon for 4 years? Was that serious? Are you? I don't know. I don't know if you might be autoimmune deficient or something, but I mean, I don't think so. Not judging by it doesn't look like it.
Glad y'all hashed it out.
Like, I don't do that in response to every time there's a flu outbreak or something like that. And I responded to COVID the same way. I was like, okay, so my like, yeah, I went and got vaccinated or whatever, but I wasn't really hard up about it. I'm fine with social distancing myself. So, but I don't see the equivalence here. Once again, who he's talking about here, with like how we don't want to do away with systemic racism, just like how we don't want to acknowledge that there's an epidemic, and somehow, so now like centrists, liberal centrists are aligned with conservatives because they're not politically left-leaning enough for you. Like everybody has to lean. We just have to push them all the way left, right? It's like if they're not left enough, then they're not on our side. Well, now you're excluding people from your fucking base, dude. Like those are your future potential voters, and you're just pushing them all back to the right. Good job.
That's a great point. And it echoes what Malcolm X said half a century ago. Liberals are no better than conservatives. They're often even more bloodthirsty, as we've seen with their recent behavior. The only thing that separates a liberal servant of empire from a conservative one is that the liberal will lie through their teeth to make it seem like they're on your side. At least when a conservative says they want you dead, you can believe it and brace for impact. With a liberal, you have to be a lot more vigilant. Conservatives don't care if they have the moral high ground.
And this dude he's listening to, like, that really, I don't know, it perplexes me to think he's actually assimilating, he's getting his information from this apparently self-hating white dude, right? Like, that from what I could tell. Like, so, I
They
don't know,
want
it's
what they
strange
want,
to me.
and they don't care how you feel about it. A liberal will twist themselves into knots trying to convince you, and often themselves, that they are the moral arbiter of modern politics. Even the liberals who are critical of Joe Biden and the wider West's enabling of this genocide often speak out in a way that ends up reinforcing belief in liberalism. Take the recent drama surrounding Jon Stewart. He said some common sense stuff about Biden and really pissed off the vote blue no matter who crowd. But his criticisms also really
Oh no, comedian, political commentator Jon Stewart said some things that were, oh no. Like, the world is gonna
with the
end
masses
now.
of more
The
casual
whole,
liberals in the imperial core. His statements were intended to air the concerns of people starting to feel cognitive dissonance about their support of genocide, and then to steer them back into the fold of the Democratic Party. Yeah, Biden may be too old for the job, but we'll do better next time. The most important thing is keeping Trump out of the White House. Things would be so much worse under a Republican, believe me. Never mind, of course, that things are only...
okay. No, I wouldn't even go so far as to say at this point things would be so much worse under a Republican, which they would, but Trump is the worst of all possible scenarios. Actually, I can't even say that at this point. I think we probably got worse options on the table. Maybe Trump is not but he's the most likely candidate to get in, and he's pretty fucking terrible, right? I don't understand how people don't see that all these fucking candidates are bullshit. Every single one of them. If they're on the national stage, they're bullshit. And in part because they represent, in particular, the extremist ideologies that you're trying to push that aren't going to actually accomplish anything. They're meant to sway people to vote to maintain the status quo that you're actually trying to fight against. So neither candidate is legitimate.
Only this bad because Biden, liberal champion of peace and freedom, has personally refused to call off his attack dog and has instead spent billions of dollars of your tax money to fund the massacre of tens of thousands of men, women, and children whose only crime is trying to prevent the slow-rolling eradication of their people and their history.
And then again, y'all, at the State of the Union, when literally we've done the maths, and the maths say he's not gonna ever have any more eyes on him in what he says between now in at least the conventions before the nomination conventions, and possibly between now and the election. And what does he do? Boast about building a fucking port to send aid.
Well, I mean, that's
How about y'all stop
something.
the fucking bombing? No, like it, literally playing both sides right in front of us. Right in front of us. And it's scary. It's scary. And again, like we covered it. It's such a bitter pill to swallow.
We can't stop the bombing, right? We didn't start the bombing. We can't force other countries to bend to our whim unless we want to be authoritarian, right?
Because I do think Donald Trump is possibly the worst human being to ever live, or he's on the list for sure. He's in the top 50 biggest scumbags I can even imagine. But Joe Biden isn't far behind. So it's quite the pickle we've got ourselves in.
I could go on like this. Well, hell, I could just leave the video running and play the hundreds of hours of footage showing what Western liberals are enabling in Gaza. Children torn to pieces hanging from piles of rubble. A man so stricken with grief that he loses consciousness after being told his entire family has been killed. A beautiful little girl, my daughter's age, standing alone in the cold, waiting for parents who will never come back. But I know that footage will not soften the liberal heart. If they've made it this far and not changed their mind, they are irredeemable, and I will not waste any more of my time trying to win over my enemy.
Y'all, this shit right here deserves an amen, a hallelujah, and the motherfucking band to strike up with the shout music. Y'all.
Does it though? Does it? So now you're aligning with the side of, you're talking about violence. You're not going to try to win over your adversary, your enemy, as you say. The only other way is to conquer them. How do you conquer them? Through violence. You are now advocating for fucking violence.
I need to hear this shit again.
A man so stricken with grief that he loses consciousness after being told his entire family has been killed. A beautiful little girl, my daughter's age, standing alone in the cold, waiting for parents who will never come back. But I know that footage will not soften the
This
liberal
right
heart.
here.
If they've made it this far and not changed their mind, they are irredeemable. And I will not waste any more of my time trying to win over my enemy. They are irredeemable. Liberal heart. If they've made it this far and not changed their mind, they are irredeemable.
We heard it.
Continuing to act as though we're one conversation, one debate, one pivotal study away from changing the hearts.
It's never one. That's you. You're the one who thinks it should be one conversation away. It's never just one conversation away. It's increments. It's tiny increments. It's baby steps. So we've been saying the whole time. I'm an impatient person just like you, but I gotta be a little more realistic about this shit. Like, how long does it take to re-educate a whole fucking society? Like, you are being unrealistic in your expectations here.
Minds of the people who have demonstrated far more commitment to remaining unchanged than you have demonstrated commitment to changing them. It's not gonna happen. And further, the amount of inherent resistance built in is
Indeed, that's when the talking stops, the slapping starts.
already inhumane. So let me be clear about this, because quite frankly, a lot of y'all still soft. And sometimes I'm still soft myself. So let's be clear
Okay.
about this.
Thank you for that, because I was gonna be like, you're calling me soft?
I am not saying that it is impossible for someone like this to change their mind. So fucking save it. Because I'm telling y'all, that is one of the chief weaknesses in our community. What did you? Yes, I didn't stutter. It's one of the chief weaknesses in this community.
Which community are you claiming to represent? Because so far I've heard you go from atheist to socialist to which community are you trying to represent right now, sir? I'm very confused.
It's some kind of version of like survivor's bias or some shit like that, right? But the fact that you have experienced something improbable, it distorts our perception of the likelihood of that possibility, right?
No,
So-
not right. That was fucking word salad gobbledygook. What the fuck are you even talking? I'm gonna back that one up to make sure I didn't miss it, because that
I
didn't
always
sound
to
like
compare this to the
anything.
lottery, because
What?
it's some kind of version of like survivor's bias or some shit like that, right?
Survivor's bias? What the fuck is that? So you're trying to, like, survivor's guilt, bias. What? No.
The fact that you have experienced something improbable,
I have experienced something improbable. No, I mean, the fact of experiencing life is probably improbable, but we're all here, so survivor's bias and improbability, okay?
it distorts our perception of the likelihood.
Distorting my perception of the likelihood. Distorting my perception of the probability. What? I'm pretty sure he's just like stringing words together here that don't actually. It's not coherent.
Of that possibility.
It's not the likelihood of that. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, it's not just me, right? That was a nothing burger. The statement you made had no coherent meaning. It didn't mean anything. It didn't say.
So it's some kind of version of like survivor's bias or some shit like that, right? But the fact that you have experienced something improbable, it distorts our perception of the likelihood of that possibility, right?
The fact that you have experienced something improbable distorts our perception of the fact of the likelihood of that possibility. So, therefore, the unlikely phenomenon which you have experienced seems more probable than is actually likely. What? It's broken my brain here.
So I always like to compare this to the lottery because it's very clear, right?
Oh God, I hope so.
Numbers are really bad. The odds are not on your side. Yes, there's a tremendous prize to be gained. Y'all, a lot of y'all live in states right now that have $25 million plus jackpots going.
True this.
$25 million plus jackpot. Sometimes some of y'all got $100+ million jackpots going. And spending your money on that bullshit helps senior citizens. So why are you not constantly playing lottery tickets? Why don't you put all your fucking money into playing lottery tickets and you can win that motherfucker? Because you know you can't. So you know that you.
Yeah, most people never win the fucking lottery.
You know the math don't math. The math is not on your side. The math is really bad. So most people actually consider
Ingenious. Just explaining improbability to me.
it the more reasonable choice to just completely ignore it. Literally, somebody just made a TV commercial, said, look, you could guess a few numbers and win $30 million. And for most people, the most reasonable response is like, yeah, anyway. Right? What's the next most reasonable thing? Maybe once in a while, you've had a couple of drinks and you find yourself at the dollar store, the corner store, or the little Sev or whatever. You know, you get yourself some little late night snacks. You know what I'm saying? And you realize you got a 10 in your pocket and you just bought about $6.50 worth of items. Let me get a couple scratch offs with that. You know what I'm saying? Let me throw down a couple of numbers on that. Right?
No, what are you talking about? Now you're like a little tipsy, so you're tempted to play the lotto? Is this personal experience? Where are you going with this?
The little couple of dollars for a shot at 25 million. Yeah, whatever. You don't expect to win.
Like, yeah, what have I got to lose? Like, I'll throw a few extra, like, okay, sure, why not?
That shit, right? But it's a reasonable amount of effort and a reasonable amount of investment.
No.
In something that might be.
No, it's not. You just said your judgment is impaired. There's nothing reasonable about it. You just made, like, the whole premise of your argument was like, oh, like that, like I'm going to get some drinks and I got like a few extra dollars or something like that. Like, it didn't make sense. Like you said, a reasonable person in the first place without impaired judgment just wouldn't have fucking made the bet. They wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't make sense.
so fucking valuable, but it's really just very unlikely to happen. That's what we're getting at.
No. None of what you said tracks. Like just now, that whole thing was like you going from here to there to the other thing. It was like the whole thing about the fact that you experienced something that was, like improbable, skews your perception of the likelihood of the probability. Because words.
That's what he's talking about, right? He's not saying nobody ever changes their mind. He's just saying
he's saying, hey, if I invest, like a few dollars on this, this guy over here, like people are like playing the lottery. Like maybe I could change their minds. Maybe I'd be better off just letting them be, right? But on the flip side of that, the extremist view, like you're talking about revolution. On the flip side of that is, why don't I just put a bullet in his fucking head because he disagrees with me, right? That's the alternative argument. Like, because you can't ignore somebody who's your political adversary in an environment when you're literally battling for power.
Issue is having a reasonable amount of information and motivation to expect a reasonable person to have changed their mind. We're way past that point. And now we got the issues way out of focus, because instead of focus on what we need to do,
I think we do, because you still haven't determined what audience you're speaking to. Are you talking to atheists? Are you talking to progressives? Who the fuck are you even talking to in this community of we that you speak of? Because I'm unclear about that.
how we need to organize, how we need to get this power, how we need to actually structure reforms and change this shit up. We're focused on how do we make our lottery tickets more effective. We're totally focused on winning over these people who's very little chance that any of them can be won over at this point. And the fact that it's happened to us, or we've made that change, it just warps our perspective on this. So to me, this is a serious challenge. You also got to remember, you did change. And
you're being extremely pessimistic. The numbers of conversions over the last, I think, like 40 or 50 years or something are in the U.S. are crazy. Like, that's why there was the whole panic. You know, they had the satanic panic and then like this new atheist panic with Christians who were like, no, people are deconverting in crazy numbers. So if you're talking about just getting people away from religion, I mean, skepticism has made a huge fucking dent, like, in our lifetimes.
And it's been some time since then. And so the people who have not changed have had access to the same information you have. Maybe have even witnessed your changing and your conversion and had conversations about why you changed and what changed you, and still haven't changed anything. So you got to be honest, they're not like you. There was a certain amount of whatever it was that motivated you to really seek out the truth, get critical, and switch your shit up. And they don't have that same motivation for whatever reason. And in the meantime, while it's just one more debate, just another conversation, just let me just hit him with this. Maybe if I get him to read this big they're off.
Yeah, there's no nail in the coffin. I can't say this. I can't stress that that's not gonna happen. And I don't think you can, like, kill religion. You can't kill conservatism as such. Like, and it wouldn't be productive to do so. Like, it wouldn't be healthy. You're always going to need some kind of pushback. Like, there's a balance here, right? You're just trying to talk about tipping the scale a little bit in this direction. And you think, like, everything's just going to flow. No, that would cause an imbalance. Like, for everybody to just suddenly go full balls leftist, would be that would be anarchy. You would have anarchy. There would be no
Doing
inhibitor.
exactly what they said they were going to do from the beginning. And we ain't doing a damn thing to stop them.
And for those who think I'm being overly harsh and that liberals are annoying,
Which is funny. It's another form of confusion that people talk about, because actual progressives, people that want, so these conservatives who say that, oh, I'm conservative but I want minimal government, right? They're actually fucking lying. They want the government only for the purpose of oppressing other peoples who they disagree with, right? That is their function of government. My government is an oppressive government that quashes out peoples and ideologies that I disagree with. Like, that's the conservative idea of the minimalist government, right? And the progressive idea of the government actually wants to uplift and give the most voices to the most people. And so in that kind of environment, right, you would have a more what do you say, like a liberal society as far as freedoms afforded to people of different ideologies, right? Which is exactly the thing the conservatives are fighting back against. It makes no sense. Both of them are upholding government, mind you, right? They just have a different idea of what the function of government ought to be.
but not really all that dangerous, I'll cite just one more historical fact. Every time liberals have been given the choice between socialism and fascism, they have sided with fascism. And when I say they've sided with fascism, that's actually a little misleading. Yes, normal liberals, the individuals, will always pick a well-dressed white fascist over a scary urban communist. But liberals...
That's a lot misleading. A well-dressed white fascist over a scary urban communist? You even take that... I would love for him to, elaborate on that, but he's not going to.
As a political organism, don't really choose to side with fascism as much as they devolve into it. Fascism...
They devolve into it. Yeah, I think that's a topic for a whole nother video, but yeah. Why, as you say, liberalism, we're talking about socialism, devolves into fascism, right? Because there's three different things going on there.
Is rooted in the same Western mythology as liberalism. Whereas in times of peace and prosperity, liberalism has all the frills and niceties normal people would expect from a first world country. As soon as the economic base falters, as soon as the lines start to go down, the mask comes off. It's often said that fascism is capitalism in decay. And if there's one thing we've seen with the United States...
Pause that. It's so true, Steph, because this is, this is it. It really is. Because it's easy for them. Rather than any focus being on their inadequacies, the way they haven't delivered on their policies, they've just gotta say, I've got your back, and I don't fucking hate you. I don't want you to die.
Yeah, platitudes. There's a lot of platitudes going around in the world. It goes both ways. A lot of talk says, if people were raised right, like they were, there wouldn't be any need for any political standing at all. Well, I think, the political standings we hold are a reflection of our personal values, right? But in this sense, in our modern politics, they're actually being used against us. Our own personal values are being weaponized against us by our own respective political parties. And in the end, they don't have... their only agenda is to sway people, again, to continue to maintain the structure that is in place. So on that front, I agree with Pocket Locker here. In order to make serious systemic change, but I don't see, it's not solution oriented. Nothing he's saying here is solution oriented. It's not oh, well, if we just don't vote for Biden, well, then who do you recommend, right? Choosing the lesser of two evils. Okay, Well, then how do we eliminate both evils? And there's no, I don't see any. There's no prescriptive value here.
And that's a cold world, y'all. That's a cold world. When that's your reality. When that's your reality. When they start really taking them books off the shelves and really taking away your rights and really banning you from places and all that other shit. And you literally stuck between the people.
When did that? I mean, have you experienced that in your lifetime? I would ask. Pocket Locker. Tog says the political parties can't have any control of you unless you give them control. And Halsey says, not true. Oppression is not based in consent to be oppressed. Yeah, I think I have to agree with the latter there. We're not given a choice. Like, as citizens, we're born into a society. We have the only control we have comes at the developed age when we can be politically informed and start to be politically engaged. And then our own personal influence is really limited, right? Because we can vote, but our vote counts only so much as we are part of a conglomeration of peoples. Like me, party of one, my political ideology doesn't matter unless I have a number of people who are aligned with me.
Who tell you my day one priority will be to shut down your life. And the other side just going, well, I don't hate you. That's really your choices. Like really your only choices. It's fucked up.
Since the Reagan years is that capitalism is on the decline. There's a reason we're always at war.
So my only choices are being people who, like, involved with a group of people who are actually aligned with me, or a group of people who just don't hate me but tolerate me. Right? I guess is kind of what you're saying there, right?
Why are civil
You just feel like you're just being tolerated on the left.
liberties are being curtailed under conservative and liberal leaders alike. Why Joe Biden is holding twice as many immigrants in cages as Trump was at the end of his term. Why we're backing Israel to the very last Palestinian. When capital has to circle the wagons to maintain its dominance, its rhetoric and actions start to look a lot like fascism. The reason for this is simple.
Yep.
Fascism is seen as a solution to an economic problem, just as socialism is. But the difference is that fascism does not threaten the primacy of capital, or the comfortable position of the white liberal. Economic hardship creates conditions where bitterness, distrust, and desperation can thrive, making the masses an easy target for charismatic and bombastic fascists.
And this is the thing, y'all. You gotta look at the numbers. You gotta look at the numbers. You know, I was fortunate to visit with my dad, and it was kind of a very interesting real-time conversation because we were talking about diversity issues, and he was like, son, don't ever forget, like, we, you know, basically, like, if we're not talking about wealth inequality, if we're not talking about the economic gap, we ain't talking about shit. And he went to go pull his numbers for, like, the comparison of the average white household and the average household of color. And I had my shit on hand. I was like, it's 10-1. Like, we.
So hold up. So you just another anecdotal experience about comparing the numbers. You went to talk to your dad. Dad says it's really important. He pulled his numbers. You pulled your numbers. Your numbers said 10-1. Okay, wait. Let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Cited as about $13,000 or about $17,000 for a black household and like 170 or something like that for a white household. It's like that is
Bullshit.
in that range. Obviously, numbers going to change all the time. He
Obviously, right. Yep. Citation fucking needed on that whole 10 to 1. Like, where did you get that number from? I just want to know, because you just threw that in there like it was relevant, but I really feel like I don't think that's correct.
out a number that was even more dramatic because he was actually just talking about New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
It was really interesting because I think it was like 7 or something, and like more like 170 or some shit like that. It was crazy. Sorry, it was way higher. It was way lower and way higher on both ends. All right. So anyway, what was interesting about that, because he was making the point.
Okay. Just had to pause on it for a breath there.
Of a lot of times when we just do the mass numbers, they sometimes smooth over, like
They're statistics. They're not fucking 100. They're statistics, right?
geographic realities, right? So over most of America, there isn't a lot of people of color, right? And when you take into the fact that
For most of America, there isn't a lot of people of color. I think you might want to rephrase that statement. That's not exactly an
they tend to
accurate.
be then therefore concentrated in certain areas.
Yes, there
And
you
then
go. There you go. People of color concentrated in certain
Look
areas.
at
There
those
we are.
areas, and the actual inequality is even worse, right? It's just I was
Is
like, yeah.
it? Is it though?
I'm like, that's pretty profound. So what's my point? You don't have to necessarily be a rich white person to understand that that's the type of difference we're talking about as the basis of people's material existence. And so
Wait, you don't necessarily need to be a rich white person to understand. I mean, you heard that, right? You heard it. I don't.
we can't act as though, okay, I can become aware of social injustice and now just pretend like that.
What's going on over here? Well, debate.
That is going to somehow give everybody equal opportunities or create a more just world. You have to do something about the tenfold difference in resources.
So you heard it here. If I want to be properly aligned with the cause, I need to do something about the misalignment, this inequality, this injustice that's happening.
And that's what's so difficult.
I
for
don't know
people
what
to do,
I need to
because you
do.
can't
I just need to do something about it.
imagine how to do that in a way that lifts up the marginalized people who they typically are not. Let's keep it real, right? Let's keep it real. Yeah, there's some black motherfuckers out there voting for Trump, and I want to go off on their ass. There's some black
There's actually like a disturbingly large number of black motherfuckers out there voting for Trump, and I think you should probably focus on that.
motherfuckers
but,
out there
yeah,
voting for
do
Trump, and
this
I want to
instead.
go off on their ass, okay? But Trump get elected, it ain't gonna be because some Negroes in Miami voted him in. When we talk about the problem with liberals, yes, we're not a monolith, and liberals, and I included myself because I'm definitely, it's about why no longer having a hard time identifying with the left. It's you know, it's a lily white circumstance, right? And so I think for a lot of people like that, it's hard because they don't identify well as sort of a demographic. I'm not saying y'all as individuals, a lot of individuals that y'all be teaching me shit. Let's keep it real. But you know, just on the whole, they don't really. It's hard for them to conceptualize what it would be really like. I try to tell people, imagine living off your tithe. Right, like that. I think that's a good starting place for a lot of people. You know, think if you put you and your partnership together, y'all living in a decent little, somewhere, wherever you hovering around. Okay, now just imagine taking the 10th of that you would typically give to church, and just imagining that's your whole nut for the year. That's all you really had. So, you know, and again, what does that even really look like? So it's hard. We sometimes suffer from a failure of imagination, and I bring all that up for a particular reason.
I know I'm restreaming Pocket Locker stream. I'm using the new streaming service. I don't know what it looks like on your end.
Because
yeah, so this is a Pocket Locker review from I started a few weeks ago.
I am personally about advocating for economic justice for particular marginalized groups, and like Black people, for instance. But I think that's just so difficult for people that, again, this is why we need a complete revolution. What's important is to identify the class gaps, the power gaps that go along with it, the insecurity that goes along with it. Look, everybody keep doing what you gotta do.
Okay. So there's no contradiction there. Good morning, Christian Carpenter. Yeah, we need revolution. We're gonna address the power gap, the income inequality, but just keep doing what you gotta do, right? So, right, we're against maintaining the status quo, but again, we don't have. There's no viable solution, ideas, towards anything. So a suggestion, a helpful
career,
helpful suggestions, maybe.
If that's what you're into, we live in this system, not the one we wish we lived in. So to the extent that your economic activity can enhance your material stability, go ahead and make your paper, boo-boo. But at the same time,
we were just saying that liberals are too fat and happy, and they need to be taken down a notch, right? Because they're not inciting the revolution. It's not happening fast enough for your particular.
That doesn't mean that our thoughts, our understanding of the world, and certainly what we advocate for in the world we work to create.
So we're not working towards the ideal. We're not working towards the world that we want to live in, right?
Shouldn't be something radically different than that. And so I think it's important to just recognize that we really need a radically different system, because if we became more aware of class consciousness, one, that would help us right there, because it would help us address so many of the structural and institutional differences, because so many of them stem from economic differences, or at least that's the way they become manifest. So it wouldn't really get rid of all of it, because again, another huge part of it is the prejudice and particular cultural and historical biases and all of that. I'm not trying to make this a cheap and quick solution, but trust me.
So it sounds like what you're saying is you are still firmly aligned with political leftist ideology.
The economic piece is a huge piece of it. And if we thought more in terms of changing the entire economic system for the benefit of everybody, right? Because
so now you're talking about socialism. So let just call a spade, right? Call the thing by its name, because I've heard the yokel on the left talk about socialism, but I haven't heard you drop the S-bomb up in here. Are you afraid? Are you scared?
the system really only works to me for like the top 1% and the owner class and whatever. Like, to me, even the managerial class, they're just fucked. Again, they're just a little bit less fucked than the rest of us. So, you know, look, if you're making 100, even $250,000 a year, like you're literally just a couple of bad days and a little bit of bad news away from, again, just being a little bit less fucked than the rest of us. But if we really brought about change for everybody, I think that's what we've got to stay focused on. That's just me personally. Again, I'm with reparations, and again, I will always support, you know, bringing about justice for particular groups that need it.
Wait. He just said he supports reparations. I can't get behind that. I can't. Halsey says it's impossible. It's an impossible battle to try for the ideal. I hate to say it, but it seems to be true, at least in many cases. We can try, but should be satisfied with progress, but not give up entirely, because the goal was not achieved. I'm not sure it's possible for the goal to happen, except for in pockets, maybe. Well, see, that's the issue. We can't be having pockets. Can't be having pockets of justice. At least not according to the. Was that? Oh, I don't have Republic in front of me. I'm pretty sure that's antithetical to the idea of a true system of justice, right? Justice, by definition, is it's universal. Goes everywhere, spreads over everybody. But this man, this person, they, them. Actually, I think pocket locker is not binary. Now that I'm thinking back, of course they don't have pronouns up. Oh, like the socialist system, yeah. Yeah, no, and I don't think like we're truly going to. I don't think it would be good to achieve a truly like fully socialist system. I think you're gonna have to have some kind of melding of. That's why I like the term like a democratic socialism, just because it allows for a bit more nuance there. So I think that's the only way it's really gonna be embraced. But it's gonna take a lot of time. But reparations, no. We and not to get all biblical, but no person should pay for the sins of their father or whatever. That's just stupid.
But I just in a little bit of bad news away from, again, just being a little bit less fucked than the rest of us. But if we really brought about change for everybody, I think that's what we've got to stay focused on. That's just me personally. Again, I'm with reparations, and again, I will always support. You know.
Yeah, we definitely are misaligned there. I'm not with reparations.
Bringing about justice for particular groups that need it.
Reparations are not justice. They're compensation for a crime that was committed to a historical person by another historical person, paid by people in the present who had nothing to do with the crimes that were committed in the past. It's nonsense.
But I just think for those of us that really want to think pragmatically, yeah, like we've got to work towards fucking socialism.
There you
I'll
go.
end
Oh,
with a
wait.
gentle warning.
Oh, slow clap. Slow clap. There we go. Hour and 10 minutes into the video to fucking drop that
for
fucking
new
bomb on you.
socialists. People who understand that imperialism is wrong, but who may still harbor some liberal ideology from their upbringing. There's this pervasive belief that if you just show people enough data that something is bad, we'll reach a critical mass of collective outrage, and then suddenly, through legal and government-approved means, we'll be able to stop the bad thing. That's just not how the real world works. That's become abundantly clear in the last 5 months. Bit by bit, our rights to protest, to assemble, to speak out, are being taken away. The Palestinian people have tried peaceful protest for years. They've tried appealing to international bodies. They've tried everything. They are well within their rights to resist their executioners by whatever means they deem appropriate. No amount of liberal hand-wringing and phony moral objections will change that fact.
You don't get freedom peacefully.
See, my understanding here, just like my, from everything I've learned, is it's not the Palestinian people, right? It's Hamas. Hello. Hamas does not Oh my goodness.
Freedom is never safeguarded peacefully. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving.
The fuck does Malcolm X have to do? Like, how do you just throw Malcolm X on in there?
of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom.
A few times in the last couple of years, I found myself
And
thinking,
again, like I just need this atheist community to take this shit more seriously.
Okay, there we go. So he's talking to atheists. Talking to atheists now. Liberal atheists on the left, just to be clear.
They are trying to create a Christo-fascist theocracy in this world right now, today, as we speak.
I like that Christo-fascism. I keep that. Just put it in my little bag over here and carry it around with me. Christo-fascist.
We do not owe them the courtesy of compliance and reasoned discussions and all of this type of shit.
Wait, what? Compliance? Reason? Discussion? We're gonna have to have the reason discussions because you're fighting them for political power. You seem to have lost sight of that whole thing where it's not like we in the U.S. have the luxury of just saying we can just sit over here on the sidelines and pretend that something's going on over there. We're like directly engaged in the conflict.
Like it's time for some resistance, y'all. And I'm not even suggesting violent resistance because unlike the Palestinian people, we haven't exhausted all the means of nonviolent resistance when it comes to this. But if they have their way, it's going to get to that point if we don't stop fucking around. Because I don't understand if you think a Christo-fascist regime that tells you it's going to eliminate the queer community as a day one priority. I don't know why you think that's a regime that's safe for atheists. That will never make sense to me.
It's not. It's not. The trouble is that they feel comfortable to persecute for, especially sexuality and gender is a big one right now because they think they can just push those agendas and say, well, it's not a religious freedom, right? It's not a civil liberty, right? We're just going to exclude that even though gender, I mean, historically actually is included in civil liberties, but not transgender, because it's not like in the verbiage there, right? Like we didn't like specify. And every time in the Constitution there's that thing. It's like the right to bear arms, except for, you know, and then there's like a long list of things that you actually can't possess, right? But there is, well, the Second Amendment. Well, good luck with that, buddy. Good luck with your Second Amendment rights. You better go and abolish the Constitution, because otherwise you really don't have a leg to stand on. It's just vague enough to not actually mean dick.
They're doing this shit in the name of God. You think? Come on, y'all. It's time to get real.
Surely not these liberals. Surely this friend or this educated person or this family member will be different. And they disappoint every single time. At some point, all decent people have to realize that liberals are as much the enemy as conservatives. They may weaponize inclusive language.
Well, I would ask, what side are you on? The liberals, conservatives, they're all misaligned with socialism. They're your enemy. Your enemy. And this heavy language, just loaded with like this adversarial, must destroy. I mean, the overtone is just nefarious.
May try to trick you into thinking they care, but it's a lie. The Western liberal position on Palestine should be the final nail in the coffin of liberal legitimacy. And I know it's not my job to call people out like this.
Is there an official Western liberal position on Palestine? I feel like it's a pretty like hot topic. Like it's kind of divided. I don't feel like there's a unified position. That's a straw man.
I know my role is to be inclusive and offer a charitable on-ramp into socialist ideas. But sometimes you just have to tell it like it is. Malcolm X was right. Liberals are the most dangerous thing in the Western Hemisphere.
I don't know. As far as I know, I think even most like rational scholars say Malcolm X was a fucking extremist. Just like more so than, I mean, you know, like all, of course, any activist is by definition going to be a little bit like, you know, of a political extremist. But I mean, as far as like real violent extremism, right? Which it seems like what is being advocated for here, right? And it's a fine line from a peaceful protest to a legit revolution to violent extremism, and you have to make sure that you stay in the center of that spectrum, right? Because if you lean in one direction a little bit too far, then you fall on the wrong side of the fucking story.
I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that my content is only possible thanks to
Damn, yo, that was so good. Like again,
It's just so good.
This is so. Look, I just hope people see that we ain't just out here ranting and raving, bullshitting with y'all. Like there's
Actually, I'm more confused by the content of this particular video as far as all that goes. But you go ahead.
there's other political commentators who are seeing the space, learning how to connect the dots in history, shifting and suggest and
Halsey, have a good time, practice. So we need a lair available for people who are okay with living a kind of Spartan way. That I think that's a topic for further discussion. Sparta was a brutal society, but you know, maybe it's for some. Maybe we should have an opt-in for that kind of structure. I like the Athenian way, you know. But there's a reason that the societies failed, I suppose.
being open to suggestion in real time. And that's the process I'm on with a lot of my friends and other content creators in this community. And y'all see, like, our tone has changed over the last few months, and we've really been trying to have much more pointed conversations about the liberal nonsense we see in the atheist community, and the issues with platforming, and the ways that we're failing to live.
I have noticed that. Actually, it's been taking place like a lot longer than I've been aware of anything you've been doing. And I think that's something to point out that, I've noticed a lot of content creators as they go through over a number of months and years, depending on the circles they travel in, decide that the angle they will go, right? Because they're not going to be anti-free speech. They don't want to deplatform people, but they make the decision that they don't want to converse with certain people who disagree with them, right? Like, they come to a point in their careers, they're like, yeah, I've debated, X, Y, and Z, and they're like, you know what, I'm just not going to platform these Christians on my channel anymore, or whatever, and they stop having the conversations. They become disengaged. You know what happens? Those Christians go back into the echo chambers they came from, they continue having similar conversations, and they get to pick on you as the weak debater who just couldn't, you couldn't effectively make the point, right? You couldn't continue to converse with them, to contend with their ideology. So instead, you went and you chickened out. You went back into your echo chamber. That's what it looks like. It looks like you're afraid to have the conversation. Right?
Live up to our ideals in terms of perpetuating the marginalization of the same groups. But look at
because you only have so many debates on like slavery in the Bible and systemic racism, and you know what I mean, like, and I get it, like it's a lot more fun to just pick on like young earth creationists or something like that. That's easy, right? But actually talking about like reforming the political system in the United States, forget about it. You're not going to make any headway with these fucking people. It's never going to happen. Why bother? Why try?
Look at even just the fact that, like, even just like with regards to basic shit like representation and diversity, like so many of the big channels in the big spaces are pretty much all white guys.
I don't know about that. Big channels, big spaces, pretty much all white guys. Which ones are we talking about? Well, in the atheist community, yeah. A lot of the atheist community is dominated by white males. That's unfortunate, isn't it? A lot of them, though, to be fair, the people that you're ripping on are those ex-evangelicals, right? Who kind of like established the scene, like all the new atheists. They're bunch of white guys, mostly like, so, yeah, and then like, all these people, in like, involved in like, the atheist community of Austin and stuff like that, a bunch of former fundies, just happened to, right, that's happenstance. You're complaining because people are representing atheists and they don't look like you, which is racist.
And then they've built up this like whole world where they get to earn a good living, being stand-ins for skeptics and critical thinkers who often fail to be skeptical and think critically about our own approach to these issues.
You got to be more specific. That just doesn't mean anything. They're failing to be skeptical about the skeptics are failing to be skeptical about skepticism.
And then they've like created the world now where they're the big power players.
They've created the world now. People who have like carved out a space and a community that you have incorporated yourself into and have been welcomed into, but now you're mad because other people were there before you and they don't look like you.
And kingmakers and
Kingmakers.
and then they continue to signal boost each other and build up each other's platforms, and they don't.
Who are we talking about? What are we? It's sufficiently vague enough to mean nothing. I don't even know who specifically you're targeting. You're just like, I don't know, white, males who are atheists, who are empowered. I don't know who you're talking about. Who are you attacking, Jay?
Don't even notice when there's no diversity. They don't even notice when we're not here. What message does that say?
There's still diversity. You've just removed yourself. I still see diversity in all these, any community that we might share in common. I mean, I could think of a few, right? I still see plenty of diversity there. I actually see, more people being excluded from okay, it used to be like open forum. Now it's like, okay, if you're in a space for black non-believers or trans non-believers, all of a sudden now white people, cis people don't have a fucking space there. Like, you're the one who's doing exclusion.
What message does that send? So again, but they'll turn around and insist that they're the progressive, they're the leftist, they're not the bigot, they're not racist,
So if you disagreed with them and you had the opportunity to speak with them about it and your argument was not sufficiently compelling, then you need to come back with a better argument. You don't just run away and say, well, they didn't accept my argument, therefore I'm excluded. That's not what that means.
But how different would one of our gatherings look than CPAC? It's crazy. It's just crazy. Again, these people we're like they're like literally like discovering representation of women. It's wild. y'all know I ain't bullshitting, right? They're literally just starting to understand that there are feminine voices out here that we should celebrate and listen to.
I think it's so weird that he just like to discovering representation of women, like. It's just so strange.
So far behind the eight ball. So far behind the eight ball, yo. So look, I'm not trying to be a total downer. Like I said,
You're not trying to be a total downer. In this whole video, you've made there's no positive to this. There's just like, well, the left and the right, they both suck, and we don't have a space. There's no solution. So, violent extremism is the answer. That's what I heard.
Learning about this in real time. This just gives us hopefully more fuel, more affirmation that we have something to say out here, y'all. That's the reason I keep doing this. You have something to say. You have a space to say it, and people are listening to you. So might as well complain about it. A lot of times in our communities, our channels are small. We put a lot of effort into them. It's a lot of work.
You're talking about. I don't want to hear you bitching about all that shit. Get out of here with all that.
It gets to be exhausting. There's drama and bullshit out here in this community all the goddamn time, and quite frankly, we don't have time for it. But I continue to do it because I think we have something to say. And so I'm really appreciate this video by Second Thought, because I think it puts spotlight on the limits of liberalism in a way that I think, you know, always trying to make that connection. The things we see going on in the bigger picture are the same dynamics playing out here in our little pocket of the world. And you'd expect that, right? It's the, you know, you'd expect an atheist space, in a space of critical people, to lean left, and therefore, you know.
Why? Why do you expect an atheist to lean left? Qualify that statement. Why does the non-belief in a deity imply or infer that one should lean left? How does that logically follow?
There's going to be systematic dynamics that come out in allegedly liberal spaces. There's a pretty good chance that that's going to be what we see in our community, and that's what we see. So yeah, continue to just, you know, lift up people that are trying to bring this stuff to people's attention and trying to help organize our community to move into a different direction. And yeah, that's all.
So right now this is virtue signaling, right? Saying if people agree with you, you should uplift them, right? Like if anybody disagrees with you on it, then you should make an effort, right, to distance yourself from that individual. Don't try to change their mind. Don't talk to them. Don't listen to their ideas, and don't attempt to understand them. It's not worth it. Just carve out a safe space and bolster that safe space with more safe people. And if anything makes you uncomfortable, you know, just cut it out. You know, pop it like a pimple. Get it out of there.
That's all part of the process. And so I've been encouraged the fact that people are responsive, and that we've been able to, you know, like for instance, have conversations on different channels about this and stuff like that. So, you know, we'll keep at it. And I love that video. Thought it was really, really good. Yeah, a lot going on. I don't know what to do in terms of like dichotomies and things like that.
Did you say you don't know what to do in terms of things like dichotomies? I'm pretty sure I just heard that.
You know,
you don't do anything about dichotomies. You just understand them. They exist.
I hate bringing up problems and not having solutions, but that's the reality.
Oh, you hate what you're doing right now. Like the whole fucking video, bringing up problems, no solutions.
Right now, like for instance, like all the third-party candidates that have even been mentioned in this cycle have been weak at best. Often more problematic.
That's like every third-party candidate in every cycle. Why is that the case?
Than the.
What was it? I think like back in the 90s or something? There was like almost late 80s, early 90s? I don't even remember. I wasn't even old enough to fucking vote.
Mainstream party candidates, at least in a typical cycle. And then there's, you know, people who think we should totally disengage and focus on sort of community level, like direct action and.
That sounds like what you're advocating for.
Community level sustenance, and I'm with that in principle, but I think you got to walk and chew gum at the same time, because it's difficult for communities in reality to leverage resources and address needs the way these larger infrastructures can, and also that's probably what we need to bring about the most good and change for the most amount of people. So I think we've got to find a balance.
See, and here I think we could agree. Like everything you're saying right now, like it's. I'm good with it. I just don't see why the build-up was necessary with this. I don't know who this other character is. Second thought, I'm gonna have to go check out some more of their content.
So yeah, we definitely need options, but also it feels like we need to find a way to find the most direct route to the changes we want, even if that means I don't know, like just dragging the
Violence. You're advocating for violence.
current infrastructure along the way. It's
Dragging the
it's-
infrastructure. Okay, that's a different form of. I mean, that is it's a form of force, right? But you can leverage economically. That's, I mean, and I would consider that viable.
It's rough. Underlying paradigm between capitalism and socialism is the scale of democracy. How empowered are the majority versus a minority? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and I think there's a way to educate the public about what socialism really is and really looks like that makes it less scary, that helps people understand that it really can be better for all of us. This is kind of what I was getting at.
See, I really think like you could have retitled this video just as like why the left should be more socialist or something like that. Like, I mean, just put it out there, because like what this feels like is like you're just bashing anybody who's, you know, actually, you know, mostly politically aligned with you, right? Like that's the way it looks. That's the way you make it look. And I don't understand, if it's not clickbait, why would you even need to go there? Oh, well, I need to send a message. Okay, all right. But what message are you sending? That you don't have an answer? Look, I just wanted to make you aware of all these problems. You've probably heard about them before, but let me just reiterate and not provide any solution-oriented like thought. It's just,
you know, it's hard to stay on things sometimes, but if you take the economic differences at face value, it's difficult for somebody to understand and really do things to bring about a system that they feel they'll be worse off in. But the truth is, in a really socialist system, especially if we harnessed technology and automation and all of these things for the socialist rather than the capitalist agenda, we could improve the material conditions of everybody. Like, if we put it in terms of real money, and I said, imagine a system where the average household or the average person, let's say, is the average person is because it's not even going to be tied to your household or whatever. The average person, just for being a grown ass adult or whatever, is like 90K. Like everybody gets 90K.
no. It's untenable. That's absurd. And why would you just, I mean, you know, you're just giving a citizen money, assuming there's a household, right? See, that's why I think the whole thing's backwards. This whole UBI this thought process of, if you just give them money, everything will be fine. You know, no, just give them all a house, right? Because like the biggest financial concern is the housing market, right? Like, it's the fact that you can't afford like basic necessities, like the price of housing, the price of groceries, the price of gas that keeps going up. Just provide people with free access to those things, and then you don't have to give them capital. They can spend their capital on other shit, consumerist shit, you know, non-essential items, the things that capitalism actually thrives on. Like both can benefit. It's not mutually exclusive.
And that has nothing to do with working. That's just like the national minimum income.
You see, I don't know. I don't think it shouldn't be like, and I don't think that there should be like this one standard for being productive where it's like, okay, go do your 9-to-5 job. We have to be able to measure your GDP or whatever. Like, that shouldn't be the requirement for output, right? Like productivity, like is different for each individual. Like especially if you're talking about a Marxist system or something like that, which isn't necessarily socialism, right? But we can draw some correlations there. So it's like each according to his need and all of that good shit. So different people can produce different things, and not all of them have to have the same economic impact in order to count as productivity, right? But if a citizen can't be productive in some capacity, then we'd have to discern a reason why they're not productive. But in order to expect them to be productive, we'd have to give them the means, right, in order to achieve a status where they can even go and perform that function. So rather than just giving them capital and expecting them to do the right thing, you just give them the necessities, which is equal to, it is capital in a sense, right? And then they can go out and decide if they want to go earn more to improve their quality of life and have more non-essential, things, whether it's for aesthetics, whether it's for entertainment, whatever their thing is, right? Like that's up to the individual.
Like most people be kind of all right with that. I think that could be closer to a reality that we create than what people imagine, which is a socialist system where, again, the average household imagines themselves in this 6-figure range or more, and they're going, well, if we evenly distribute wealth and people's income isn't tied to, their hierarchy in the corporate ladder, then they're gonna make us.
That's not what people say, and that's not the argument. Don't straw man the other side's argument because it's not helpful. The other side's argument is that there won't be enough to go around, and under your model there wouldn't, right? But that's because people can still hoard assets, they can still hoard properties, and then it gives it an unfair appraisal of the value of those assets and properties. That's the problem, because you can hike up the cost of a rental. As soon as you start giving people $90K a year and everybody has that, all the rental prices go up, and you haven't alleviated that fucking issue.
So poor, and we're all gonna be in the bread line at the soup kitchen and have to ride bicycles to work. Like, I was like, I don't know why you hate bicycles, but we're just not realistic about what a socialist reality could be, because we've just been lied to, right? What we think of is just a boogeyman, essentially, that's been created through propaganda. We should really actually be having conversations about.
I mean, I do agree on that. I think most people are misinformed about what socialism entails, what the modern models might look like, right? And they're all theoretical, because none of them have really been implemented. If you point to other countries, no. Like, all of those are devolved regimes, right? Those are archaic regimes. We don't have a good modern model to base our opinions off of, because people are so fucking scared to try it at this point.
What the material world could be.
Like, the closest you could look at is like some of Europe and Canada, where they've like started to put in smaller apparatus into the system, right? Which is kind of what the U.S. is leaning towards. And as much as conservatives push back against it, it still keeps going that way. Like, they can scream, they can cry, but welfare's not going away, the shit's not going away. So then they just lean on another issue that they can actually like have some effect in, like abortion or something like
Get
that.
real with each other. Like capitalism sucks. I try to get it. Y'all know me. I like to stretch out the brain muscles a little bit, but then find a way to keep it basic. And so, you know, I've just been trying to tell people your vision sucks. You know, like, think about it. Do you really want to work? Do you really want your worth tied to...
Nobody wants to work. And yeah, like a lot of jobs are probably not necessary at this point. A lot of jobs. But you got to give people something else to do. Like people, they don't want that. They've been programmed. Their sole purpose in life is to go and earn their keep and come home and enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? If you take that sense of purpose away from them, you have to replace it with something else. You know, even if you take, you know, automate all the truck driving jobs and send those truckers home with money to live on, they're still going to be like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I'm just going to hang out and spend this money. You're going to blow this fucking money, right? Like, the capital is going to go fast if you don't have some other thing to fill that void of the thing that you did with your time, right? And not everybody's going to go out and become an artist. That's not realistic either. And we don't, you know, like, so you have to, like, fill that with some other, like, really, like, you have to occupy people. Occupy people somehow. You have to offer that.
If you can work, how much you can work, how competitive you've been relative to others at working. You think it's a good vision?
No, some people are just like content in their station. It's crazy. I don't agree with it either, but that's the way some people are. And you got to accept that those people like make up a pretty decent like percentage of the people around you that are just content in their station. They don't want things to change, right? They're so used to this routine, this established behavior, they wouldn't know what to do without it.
Don't you think it's a better vision that like we just make robots do everything, and then like people live healthy, happy lives? They can own a home. They don't.
But what if the robots become sentient and try to kill us all?
They can send their kids to good schools because good schools are free, and we all have good access to healthcare. Nobody goes broke over healthcare because healthcare is free.
But if all schools are free and healthcare is free, who's going to pay for it? If nobody's working, are the robots going to pay for it?
There's free college options, public college options everywhere, and people just make a good living just for being people, and other people work because they like to have more.
Wait. People make a good living just for being people? Like, I just get paid to be alive? Sounds like a hell of a deal.
And they think they want to do more and take fancier vacations and buy fancy jewelry or whatever the fuck. So you can still work and.
Okay, yeah, there you go. If you want to like buy fancy jewelry or take vacations, then you can still work, right? Yeah, there's options available for you there.
Do whatever the fuck, but shit's just owned and operated differently. But you want to do your own industry beyond whatever the fuck, you can do that. Like, people don't realize it doesn't take away your abilities. Just shit's different. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Love y'all. This is fun. Glad we covered it. Really appreciate everybody for showing up. I'm gonna get out of here, get something to eat, and go play some cards and gather. So, oh yeah. Also, we've been watching Tales of the City. Great show. Steph's been streaming for us. We've really been enjoying that. So yeah, Gather's where we hang out and we can watch shows together and game, have fun, and do all that stuff. So there's links in the description. Hang out. Also, don't forget class Wednesday morning. At least initially that this was called out and that a person made the track this, but I wanted to bring it to people's attention because it's kind of like the deal like back in the day with the with the raccoon avatar, or all these different things that come up in our.
Kind of like that deal back in the day with the raccoon avatar. Way back in the day, you know. Alright, what do we got going on over here? It's almost 2 in the morning. We made it through the whole video. Congratulations. To everyone who was here with me, thank you. If I can figure out how to... fuck it. Saw Tog, saw Halsey, I saw Cher, Mikey. I can't see comments now, of course. Oh, wait. Shit, that's wrong. Alright, well, I guess I'm gonna finish the thing and might launch another one on StreamYard. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. We commit to deepening and broadening our understanding of the Four Noble Truths and to practicing the Eightfold Path in our daily lives. Be well.